buckle up, because today we're diving deep into the heart of Africa.
Yeah, straight into the Democratic Republic of Congo.
A story as gripping as it is tragic.
Absolutely.
Patrice Lumumba,
Pivotal.
a pivotal figure in Congo's fight for independence.
And the source material you've given us.
Intense.
Yeah.
Excerpts from a YouTube video.
Congo. The appalling story of the assassination of Patrice Limumba.
Uploaded by Histoire d'Afrique.
The video uses first-hand accounts
And historical analysis.
giving us an up-close look at this tumultuous period.
You're right.
Yeah.
It goes way beyond one man's fight for freedom.
It intertwines with the brutal legacy of colonialism
The global tensions of the Cold War.
and the extraordinary challenges of building a nation against impossible odds.
It's crucial to understand what came before Lumumba.
Absolutely.
The source paints a truly disturbing picture of life in the Belgian Congo pre-independence.
Imagine this. The entire country.
The entire country.
The entire country held as the personal property of King Leopold II.
It's difficult to grasp the audacity of such a concept.
It wasn't just a typical colony.
No.
It was his own private domain.
Wow.
And the atrocities committed under his rule are truly horrific.
Really horrific.
We're talking villages razed, mass killings, a system of forced labor so brutal it beggars belief.
The source mentions forced labor centered around rubber quotas.
Enforced through unimaginable cruelty.
Unimaginable.
Soldiers in the force public, the colonial army, were actually incentivized to bring back severed hands as proof they hadn't wasted ammunition.
Wow.
This practice, designed to terrorize the Congolese people into submission, spiraled into an unimaginable reign of terror.
People were mutilated for the smallest perceived offense.
Their hands taken as trophies.
It's a chilling reminder of the dark side of human nature.
A period historians often shy away from.
The source estimates that millions of Congolese people died as a result of these policies.
A genocide largely missing from history books.
It really makes you question how such horrors could occur under the guise of civilization.
Exactly. This underlying current of exploitation and violence becomes the breeding ground for the burgeoning nationalist movement and the fight for independence.
This is where Patrice Limumba enters the picture.
Is this where he enters?
The source paints him as a man of great intellect and charisma.
Deeply affected by the injustices he saw around him.
What's particularly striking is his journey, starting as a postal clerk.
He used that position to gain insight into the mechanics of colonial control.
And he didn't just watch from the sidelines.
Right.
Lumumba became a journalist.
Wielding his words as weapons to expose the truth.
And those words eventually propelled him to become a powerful political leader.
A powerful leader.
The source highlights a pivotal moment in Lumumba's life.
His 1958 speech at the Exposition Universelle in Brussels.
He witnessed firsthand the dehumanizing portrayal of Congolese people, almost like exhibits in a museum,
It was a turning point.
fueling his determination for independence.
You can almost feel his anger and frustration in that moment. He wanted the world to see the Congolese people not as objects of pity or curiosity, but as equals deserving of respect and the right to chart their own destiny.
This experience led him to form the MNC.
The Mouvement National Congolese.
Through the MNC, he started openly demanding independence.
Openly demanded.
But as you can imagine, the Belgian authorities were not thrilled.
To see the
They arrested him in 1959,
1959.
a move that backfired spectacularly.
Imprisoning and even torturing Lumumba didn't silence him.
No,
It amplified his message, turning him into a symbol of resistance.
it's a powerful testament to the human spirit.
Horrific violence and oppression on one side.
And on the other,
You have Lumumba, this incredibly eloquent and powerful leader demanding freedom and dignity for his people.
it really makes you consider the weight of individual actions in the face of overwhelming power.
What do you think made Lumumba such a potent symbol of hope, even when facing such adversity?
That's something to ponder as we delve deeper into Lumumba's story and the fight for Congo's independence. And that fight takes us right to 1960,
A pivotal year.
a pivotal year for Congo.
Yeah,
While independence was eventually achieved,
eventually achieved.
the path was anything but straightforward.
Anything but.
The source really highlights the intense back and forth between Lumumba and the Belgian authorities.
Oh, it's a power struggle.
A real power struggle.
Yeah, the source describes Lumumba at the Round Table Conference in Brussels,
Okay.
where he managed to unify the entire Congolese delegation under the banner of immediate independence. It It was a remarkable feat.
That's quite a power move.
Yeah.
So he understood the absolute necessity of presenting a united front to counter Belgium's attempts to delay the inevitable.
Exactly. He was a shrewd political operator, no doubt.
Yeah.
But then comes June 30th, 1960.
June 30th.
Congo's Independence Day.
Independence Day. You'd think it'd be a moment of pure celebration.
You would think.
But the source describes a real sense of, dissonance.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, King Baudouin of Belgium gives this speech at the ceremony.
Okay.
And instead of a message of congratulations and goodwill, he launches into this tone-deaf praise of King Leopold II.
Oh.
You know, the guy responsible for all those atrocities we discussed?
Yeah.
It's like pouring salt into a wound.
And knowing Lumumba, he wouldn't let that slide.
Not a chance.
No.
His impromptu speech in response is the stuff of legend.
Really?
He calls out the hypocrisy of Belgian colonialism in no uncertain terms. The violence, the racism, the exploitation. It's a speech that reverberates not just throughout Africa, but globally, cementing Lumumba as a beacon of anti-colonial resistance.
But probably earned him some dangerous enemies in the process.
Absolutely. The source actually quotes King Baudouin telling his prime minister that Lumumba has become an obstacle to be eliminated.
Wow.
Chilling.
Talk about foreshadowing.
Right.
So from that point onward, Lumumba was walking a tightrope.
Trying to lead a brand new nation while facing threats from all sides.
Which leads us to the Katanga situation.
Right.
The source really digs into how mineral wealth and foreign interests fueled instability in Congo.
Katanga was like a giant treasure chest of resources, especially copper and uranium.
Essential.
Essential for industries back in Europe and the U.S.
Wow.
Belgian mining companies had a huge stake in Katanga.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't about to let go easily.
So they backed Moise Chom,
They did.
who declared Katanga's secession from Congo just weeks after independence.
A classic case of divide and conquer.
Wow.
With foreign powers exploiting internal tensions to further their own economic agendas. And it wasn't just Belgium, you know. Other Western powers like the U.S. and France were also involved, providing support to Chom and his secessionist movement.
It's crazy how quickly things spiraled.
Yeah.
This newly independent nation trying to find its feet, and it's immediately thrust into chaos and conflict.
And that's where the Cold War casts its long shadow.
Yeah.
Faced with this secessionist movement, backed by the West, Lumumba makes a fateful decision.
He turns to the Soviet Union for help,
He does.
which in the eyes of the U.S. was probably akin to signing his own death warrant.
Pretty much. The U.S. government, already on edge about Soviet influence in Africa, saw Lumumba's plea for help as a sign that he was siding with the communist bloc. This, combined with their vested interest in protecting Western economic interests in the region, led to a concerted effort to remove Lumumba from power.
And the source specifically mentions the CIA's involvement.
Yes. There's evidence that the CIA, under orders from President Eisenhower himself, actively plotted to assassinate Lumumba.
Wow.
They saw him as a threat to Western interests,
Okay.
a potential domino in the Cold War.
Right.
And they were determined to eliminate that threat.
It's a chilling thought.
It is.
And what's tragic is that it wasn't just external forces working against him. The source also points out internal opposition to Lumumba's leadership.
You're right. While Lumumba enjoyed significant popular support, his firm stance against colonialism and his decision to seek Soviet aid alienated key figures, including President Joseph Kasavubu, and crucially, Joseph Mobutu,
His own army chief of staff.
his own army chief of staff.
The source describes Mobutu as pro-West and highly ambitious, seeing a chance to seize power.
And seize power he did. With the backing of the CIA, Mobutu launches a coup, placing Lumumba under house arrest.
But Lumumba wasn't one to give up easily. The source mentions his escape attempt.
Right. He manages to escape house arrest and tries to reach Stanleyville,
Okay.
where he hoped to rally support.
Right.
But tragically, his journey was cut short.
It's hard to imagine what must have been going through his mind.
It's just heartbreaking. The source really details those final days,
Yeah.
flown to Elizabethville,
To Elizabethville.
the capital of Katanga,
Right.
imprisoned, tortured,
And
was
ultimately,
executed by firing squad.
January 17th, 1961.
61.
The source names several Katangese officials involved, but it also points to the presence of Belgian officers. Oh, yeah. This goes high up.
At the execution.
Directly involved in the assassination of the democratically elected prime minister.
It's a horrifying thought. And then just to add insult to injury, you have this attempted cover-up.
Right. Fabricated story. claiming Lumumba was killed by villagers during an escape attempt.
Which the source points out was quickly debunked.
Yeah, I mean, the truth came out, but
Brilliant.
not before it sparked outrage and uprisings across Congo.
Led by his supporters.
Speaks volumes about the impact he had. Even in death, he inspired such resistance.
It makes you wonder what Congo could have become.
It's the question, isn't it?
If Lumumba had been allowed to lead.
Yeah.
The source actually goes into some pretty gruesome details
Yeah.
about what happened to Lumumba's body. Dismembered, dissolved in acid. A chilling attempt to erase any trace of the crime.
To erase him from history, to eliminate any chance of him becoming a martyr for the Congolese people.
And for a while, it seemed like they might succeed. But then, this really remarkable turn of events.
The return of Lumumba's tooth to Congo in 2022.
Wow. A Belgian police officer involved in disposing of Lumumba's body had kept a tooth.
It's difficult to fathom the audacity of that.
As a souvenir. A gruesome souvenir. But decades later, that tooth becomes a focal point for acknowledging the truth about Lumumba's assassination and Belgium's role in his downfall.
The source describes the return of the tooth as this incredibly emotional event.
Absolutely. A sense of closure. A chance to finally mourn their lost leader and, hold those responsible accountable, even if only symbolically.
Lumumba's story is ultimately a tragic one, but it's also a story of incredible courage, resilience, the enduring power of ideas. And it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about colonialism, Cold War politics, and the human cost of power.
And how do we ensure history doesn't repeat itself?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that the voices fighting for justice aren't silenced?
These are questions that resonate far beyond Congo.
They're relevant to every corner of the world, every single one.
It's a heavy note to end on, but an important one. Lumumba's legacy serves as a powerful reminder that the fight for freedom and justice is ongoing, and that even in the face of immense adversity, the human spirit can endure.